our own African talent. So I'm going to throw that at Paul first. But before that, Sister Dorita, could you let everyone know in terms of how it works now with the questions and the comments and XYZ?
Hey, so you guys should know by now, if you've got any questions, please drop them in the Q&A. I will obviously be looking through there, but because I'm always checking there, sometimes I miss things in the chat, so make sure they go into the Q&A box, otherwise they might bypass me. But I am trying to keep my eyes in two places, but please drop any questions you have in the Q&A box. Thank you.
So it's the Q&A box, and Paul, the way Paul teaches, he makes things very plain, but at the same time, you may have that little question. This is a time you've got the man himself live. And Brother Paul, can we thank you again? Because I'm saying you've become a regular on this platform. That's not just down to me, brother. That's down to absolute demand from the public. So how are you doing now, brother?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well.
Fantastic, brother. And both Rudy Liquid and Sister Peaches spoke about the influence of your work on them, King. And how does that make you feel when you hear those words, bro? I know you're just in your work zone.
Well, I get it. It has to be done. The work has to be done. So it makes me feel good if I get feedback, but I don't really follow that on. Rudy reminds me one of my greatest failures, actually, you know, as a teacher, because he still supports Liverpool. And it's like, used to come to my classes in a red Liverpool tracksuit and everything, man. It was just terrible. So seeing him say that tonight, I think he was having a go at me. I think he was having a go at me. He's not for turning. So anyway.
But at least he hasn't gone further into the depths of supporting Arsenal, beloved. So.
Well, you mean 007, the 007 club. Yeah. It's funny.
Oh, Brother Paul, I'm gonna just give you rights to share your screen, King.
Okay.
And brother, I'm gonna shut my mouth. I want you to teach, brother, because I'm interested to see the cycle of life, the cycle of life. We can see your Zoom page there, bro. I don't think that's what you want us to see.
My Zoom page. You can't see the PowerPoint.
No.
Don't tell me we're going with this again, Andrew. I say so confident. So what did I say?
Don't worry, we're gonna get there.
Zoom United. It says Zoom United.
That's right. That's what we can see.
But you can see that.
Yeah, but I think you're gonna have to come off share screen. Have you got your workshop open and ready?
Let me just open it up there.
Yeah, because it won't come up if it's not open. It won't come up yet. You'd have to open it first. Yeah.
For the few of you who have asked about where you can get the timeline, I am dropping some details into the chat now, so you can have a look and see the instructions for how to get your own one.
Zoom. Any luck so now?
All right. Have you shared screen yet? We can't see a share screen yet.
Let me just go here. I'll move this over to one side so I can reach that, and then I go to here.
Brothers and sisters, get ready for
the screen.
Night.
Is that bouncing now?
Come on now, King.
Perfect.
Is it there?
Now, King.
And then I go from here, slideshow.
Oh, I'm in love, brother. I'm in love, brother.
Slideshow, play from the start.
The hair on the back of my neck is standing.
No, sir, listen, because it's being recorded, I'm gonna have to move very fast because it's quite a long presentation. Is that okay?
Let's go.
First and foremost, you mentioned before about I see you. In Igbo, we say Ahurum Genaya. Ahurum Genaya means I see you with my eyes. Wow. And of course, that is also what you get in Avatar as well. They don't say I love you, they say I see you.
See you. So
the eyes are the windows to the soul. So therefore, it's a very important thing you've introduced there, Brother Andrew. Here, this particular symbol representing communication, which means to join as one. In Islam, you have the belief that we join together. It's called the qalb, that we join at the level of the heart. The heart is the first organ to grow before in the mother's womb, before the brain or any other organs. It's the heart, and then the heart starts to beat and carries on until the day we die. So the greeting, the kolb, the science of that, K-O-L-B in English, in the English spelling of it, kolb means that we're automatically connected at the level of the heart. My father sent back the name Obinna for me, means heart father. My son is called Obiaku, means the heart of wealth. So the heart plays a very important role in our cultures. Going back to the ancient times of Kemet, of course, the heart is weighed against the feather of truth and justice. So in the process of my art. So I had to start with this, and also a remembrance as well. Two brothers who have passed, Ranoko Rashidi, our diaspora man, the man who traveled all over the place to find African history. And then, unfortunately, yesterday, I believe it is, Michael K. Williams passed away. We're still waiting to confirm hear what the confirmation is, the means, but apparently his nephew found him. So Michael K. Williams, a lot of controversial roles that he played, especially to do with sexuality. My biggest disappointment was in 12 Years a Slave, that it didn't kick ass more. I thought I really, when I saw his character, I thought he was going to really give some wax out and things. But please, we remember these two brothers at this particular time. So 3 questions. I'm starting with this. This is when we're talking about the life cycle, we're talking about the personal level, but I'll unpack this. So the 3 questions are for you just to think on. When did you become Black? When did you become Black? What I mean by this, when did you become aware of the term Black? Was it that your parents told you, or was it that you happened upon this term when you hit the road outside, when you became part of society and you got awoken? Next one, what were the circumstances of you becoming consciously Black? Do you remember that? And finally, how did it make you feel? So I remember asking this, I was doing a session down in Rotterdam, oh man, some of the responses, well, nearly all the responses were from a position of oppression. And there were experiences of being called Black, being called this, being called that, all the other epithets that go with it. And this becomes a very deeply entrenched process that we've been put forward, put through. So again, I'll put this to you, The Twin Pillars of Consciousness of Oppression and Victory by Dr. Molefi Asante, where poverty and wealth, violence versus peace, lack versus abundance, disease versus health, misery and happiness, failure versus success. It's brilliant listening to Sister Peaches, because as she's saying about how this change she went through, the building of awareness, but this is it's a lifelong process. We're still in now. I'm 62, still going through all my awareness of things that happened when I was younger and how it catches up on me, etc., etc. I was blessed though, because 5 years ago, my marriage went, there's a separation, and now finally I'm divorced. But I was able to actually go through a healing process. So wonderful to hear Sister Peaches talking about, well, did she get my script or something? I don't, what the hell? Anyway, Sister Peaches talking about the healing. I'm going to get to that dynamic. Overwhelmingly, we hear, as we just found with the brother, it took 47 years to get his name cleared. But most of the information about Black is going to be going down the poverty, violence, lack, disease, misery, and failure. But then there should be this dynamic where wealth, peace, abundance, health, and happiness and success. I always remember, as Rudy was talking about, mentioned my brother there, Leo X. And as Leo Chester, he started talking about the names that we had back in the day, the groups that was, the Four Tops, the Supremes, all those kind of names were there. We were talking about an aspiration. I was once down in Marcus Cato, good brother, who you should get hold of to do a session on here on the role of Strength Finder. and which is an online questionnaire. It's one that we used to run with the young brothers in prison, and we'd run that with them so they could find their top 5 strengths. And he took me to Chicago in 2000, and what happened was the Reverend Jesse Jackson was talking to the young group, the group of young people I was with, and he said that in the 50s, the 40s and 50s and 60s, all they had was dreams with no opportunities. But he said now in the 90s and the new millennium, it seems that we've lost our dreams and just basically, oh, we've got the opportunities, but we've lost the dreams. And so we're being conditioned by a system, we're being conditioned by media and all these other influences, and it directs how we're supposed to be behaving, directs what we're supposed to be thinking. And so I ask that you think about this. When you think about your diet, it's wonderful. Andrew's talking about the food shops, the way, the things that we eat. And what does it say? Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die. So what happens is we've got this wonderful thing, but we have a diet for our body, but there's a diet for our mind. And we have to be careful. Like Marcus Garvey said, if the African is not careful, he will drink in the poison of this civilization and die of its effects. And that is certainly one of the key things that seems to be happening now with illnesses, with all manner of mental health issues, etc. We've got to watch our diet for the mind and set up our defense mechanisms so we can start to process these influences that are upon us. So, which is generally portrayed or nurtured as being black. I got to say the blue side, we got the blues. Yes, we're singing the blues still. We need to get that energy raised up about how to raise ourselves to become the best, the very best we can. Lineage timeline online curriculum. It's the alchemic structure I'm going to be doing at first. The structure is this. The alchemic structure is designed to place information given throughout the lineage timeline curriculum in an intentional context. It says the information is intended to move the recipient towards a sense of personal, social, and cultural awareness with growth and enlightenment. Exactly what Sister Peaches is on. It's exactly what Andrew's trying to do, what he's trying to do with these sessions. And then ultimately the lineage timeline and other tools are used to design, designed to rehumanize and awaken a true sense of progressive world citizenships. You can't be turning around and reading all this information and say, we're the mothers and fathers of humanity, and then the next minute we're frightened of the picnic. That can't go on. There got to be this thing about endorsing the self and serve the world. And that means from a position of responsibility. Dehumanization requires rehumanization. It's as simple as that. But if you look, you can put the word rehumanize in your phone and it will come up all right. But if you do the process of rehumanization, it'll underline it as wrong and it will suggest dehumanization. We got to get on a rehumanization pattern and stop playing a lot of the games that are afoot. Let me just say that I'm going to talk this straight. I've worked in prisons for many years, 32 years. I've worked in the senior estate, category B and category A. And I'll tell you this now, when you work with rapists, a rapist does not mind talking about the rape because it's empowering them. They did it for power. When you keep reminding, if you keep talking about the rape, you're empowering the perpetrator. And a lot of the stuff we're doing is once again reminding ourselves of the oppression that we went through without going through the rehumanization intention. And that's what I really want to try and get across. And there, we basically were a black historical bonsai tree. You know the bonsai tree? They're actually nurtured to stay small. They're nurtured so that we cannot, they won't grow out. So it said bonsai is a Japanese art form originally from China, which utilizes cultivation techniques to produce in containers small trees that mimic the shape and scale of full-size trees. I don't know if you've seen the film Baby Boy, and it says starts right at the beginning with Tyrese is in a womb, and he said there's a psychiatrist, a lady called Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and she says that due to the system of racism and oppression, the black man has been made to think of himself as a baby, a not yet fully formed human being. So this is what the baby boy, the baby boy. Yes, sisters being persuaded to stay and fix at a certain position. But let me get on with this. It says, by analogy, this tree can represent the general knowledge of self that many Black people have as we mimic or want in on other nations' sense of history. So we don't know our sense of history. We don't know our version of events. And I'm not saying that we must dwell in history, because that's one of the things we can get caught up in. We're talking about now. How do we apply ourselves now in this present moment to become the most powerful human being you can be? And so here, it's what I call the chorale. I use this symbol of the decagon. The decagon because base 10, where we have decades, centuries, and millennia. And this is a 10-sided figure. And what they do is getting our intellect, becoming, oh, we can reason, we know this and we know that. Yes, we're brilliant about this, brilliant about that. So they keep us running from race, gender, class, politics, war, sex, sexuality, slavery, economics, history, law, entertainment, capitalism, religion, socialism, poverty, disease, fear, colonialism, and failure. We keep running from one of those to another, and then it's the next flavor. The news media comes out with this. We've had this massive thing over the last year. I don't know if you've all heard about this thing called COVID-19. Have you heard of COVID? Have you heard of that? COVID-19? Because 2 years ago I hadn't, and we got coronavirus and COVID and all of this fear being taught, slapping us every day, slapping us every day. I had to shut off my terrestrial TV with the amount of fear and not just absolute. Look at that. If I turn around to you now, let me ask a question. What's the population of Britain? If you said 64, 65 million, cool. How many people die every year on a regular basis? We've been nearly 2 years, we're coming up to 2 years of information about death, and they haven't told us how many people die. It's on average 600,000 people a year die from all different circumstances. Go and learn about that's the one thing we don't want to talk about, isn't it? Death. Let's talk about death, baby. Let's talk about you. You see, what happens is, if we start talking death, we start falling into the thing of what they call that. Niggers, Negro, what was it? Negro, Necro, one who communicates with the dead. Not when we're looking at our ancestry. They said that we're preoccupied with death. The ancient Kemites were preoccupied with death. What a bunch of nonsense. They were preoccupied with life and responsibility within that life. But that's not for this evening. What's this now? The alchemic structure. Alchemy is considered the medieval forerunner of chemistry, and it's concerned with the transmutation, the changing of matter. The main fascination in particular was the attempt to convert base metals such as lead into gold. The structure represents an evolving learning process of building levels of awareness. The process is called evolving consciousness. We may be conscious, but it's got to keep evolving. It's got to go higher, higher, higher. And this is one thing which we never stop doing. We never stop learning. We never stop trying to improve ourselves mentally, physically. Oh my gosh, physically, yeah. Evolution, there's another thing called involution. Evolution, involution. You know evolution because in this society, the culture keeps telling things can only get better. What do you mean they can only get better? Look at the mess that the world is in currently. But that's because we don't know about involution. The word is involution. Involution means to degenerate. So for instance, think about, go to nature. You got spring and summer, which is the evolution of the plant life. Then you got autumn, winter, which is the involution of the plant life. You have pre-ovulation and ovulation, which is the maturing of the egg within the sisters. Then you've got premenstrual, menstrual, which is the degeneration and passing out of the egg. So we don't get taught this kind of information, that there's a natural cycle going on, and there's some very big cycles going on, because now we're going from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. So we're going from one stage to another stage, and these things are going on all the time, but we're trapped down into this little chorale piece of history, and we're told that's all there is. So let me just get this now. if I put a ground level there and I go to lead, this is the foundation level. This is where the chorale operates. And what happens is we get taught history. We get taught this kind of information that we get from school, history, geography, the syllabus, etc. But then what happens is we want to wake that up by learning about the brain hemispheres. Why the brain hemisphere? I don't know about you, but when I was at school, I didn't get taught about my brain. Why? So they can keep messing us over. So they can keep selling us things. They can keep messing around with our minds. So we have to have this basic thing. In brain hemispheres, we understand how the brain operates. And the mind, what do we call the brain? We call the mind what goes on in the brain. We call the mind. On the next level, brands, expansion. What I call history with a Y. Why? Because history with a Y relates to the hist or the womb, the mitochondrial DNA that lies within us. And more powerfully in the woman, of course, the mother. So the sister
Paul, brother, Rastafari, leg shot king. I just had to come, brother, I'm having a baby whilst you're talking, king.
Hey, okay.
Keep teaching.
So what goes on? So the history, the womb, the sister whose birthday it is today. Please, it's Mother's Day. Your birthday is Mother's Day. That's the day your mother went into labor. That's the day your mother pushed you out, or cesarean section or whatever. After 9 months, 8 months, whatever, gestation, she went into labor. Why the hell is that our mothers are not celebrated on our birthdays? What's going on? I'll tell you why. They want to keep us restricted. Instead of looking back, Sankofa, that Sankofa bird with the egg in its mouth, the human egg is one with the woman. Why are we not having a celebration that our birthday is Mother's Day? Well, part of it. So what I'm saying to you, history with a Y, and then what do? The lineage timeline. We expand our consciousness outside of this little enslaved period that we've been put into, or colonized period that we put. Listen, I was trying to explain something the other day. I said, this focus we got on enslavement by Europeans. And then I say, okay, you get a 30 centimeter ruler, right? Enslavement by Europeans is 0.5, half a centimeter. Enslavement, colonization, half a centimeter. Enslavement by Europeans, 2.5 centimeters. Enslavement by the Arabs and the Turks, 5 centimeters. Our historical continuum, 27 centimeters. So why are we restricted? Why are we not pulling these things out, expanding the time? That's what we did the lineage timeline for, to unlock the door there, so that not to be dwelling on it and say, so I could give you a lineage timeline. You get that timeline and you go like, wow. You mean all this genetic potential and materials in me? Do you mean I'm the living, breathing, walking, talking representative of every ancestor who's ever lived? Do you mean I have this innate power within me? Do you mean that's what we got? And the word education is based on 2 forms. One's a du carré, right? Which means to lead out. And then a du carré, which means to mold and shape or knock into shape the external discipline and the internal nurturance. Do you mean I've got that? But then some of you get the lineage time. Well, what these white bastards did, I'm going to stop us looking at our history. Because your consciousness is towards the oppression, not towards the victory. So upon this, I hope I get the blessing from Sister Peaches for this, because above this now we've got silver, and what's the intention there is healing. You see, a lot of people read information, then they think that they got the big bounty and they got the power, and don't realize that just because you got the information and knowledge, don't mean to say that the mess that we went through, 400 years of enslavement and colonization, etc., or 1,400 years, what, you think that ain't in your gene pool? Wait, now we call it epigenetics. Sisters like Pat Newton. Pat Newton was talking this thing back in 2002. Now it's known as epigenetics. All there lurking, waiting, and triggering left, right, and center. We need healing. We have to consciously get onto that pattern where we actually say, I'm messed up. I know I've got this potential to be messed up. And so therefore, I need to heal. I need to find ways to do that. Not block it off with religion. Life cycle and lifeline. That's what I'm going to be dealing with, the life cycle. There's a thing called the lifeline. and the life cycle and lifeline work, that is where it hits hard, and then it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process because more and more things will get exposed. Gold, control and focus. This is what the Sphinx is about, the symbol of the Sphinx. Heru Em Aket, the Horus, the hero, on the horizon, on the level, balanced, watching, on guard. The body of a lion, the king of beasts, and the head of a human, saying the human being must transcend the level, the bestial level within us, and then have that power and control. So what's the keys there? Books like the Kabbalion, books like the Kabbalion, short book. Then it's talking about understanding the power of the ancient knowledge. Start with a basic thing like that. And then finally, up here, platinum, the ascension, right there at the capstone. What would I teach there? Nothing, because it's none of my damn business. That's your relationship with the God, with the creator, whatever you deem that to be. That's all the way through. The intention is to rise as high. And now how you do that at your peak, that's up to you. Nothing to do with me, right? I said, but what we do, do you remember Officer and a Gentleman? The Officer and a Gentleman, Louis Gossett, who was the sergeant, and his job was to get these officers ready to do their job. And he didn't go there himself. Bit like Moses, you go to the border of the promised land, you don't step over into it. So what I'm trying to say to you, I'm wanting you to really catch this idea. I want you to catch this idea that what our diet does, what our reading does, what our watching does, we should be able to put this on one of these levels and know what the intention is that we're actually using this stuff for. We are hit 24/7. I mean, some days I've got to put my phone in the bathroom so I don't take it to my bed, because I wake up in the night and I'll be looking things up. You understand? That's how easy it is to get knowledge now. I always remember I was in a coffee shop in Manchester that we use called Coffee Nubia. And what happened was, we're in there one day, me and my squire Lance, and then a young brother came up to me and he goes like, "Brother Paul, have you seen this?" And I looked at what he showed me on the phone. I burst out laughing. And he said, "What's up with that?" And I said, "No, there's nothing wrong with it, man." I said, "Just this information." I said, "I had this in 1988. I had to catch a bus into town, go to the library, find the book, pull the book out, open it up, get it photocopied, then take it home, catch the bus home, then literally cut and paste the information, then go into school the next day, put it onto the photocopier, and then get it put onto an acetate, and then I had it." Took me around about maybe 30 hours or something like that. And I said, "And you just go like blip, blip, and you got that information as fast as anything." The only thing is, sometimes we lose the quality of what we're looking at, the importance of it, the caring about it. So I'm asking you to actually look at this thing, that in our life cycles, we need to, well, let me just get this to you, right? Those are the different logos and that I use. But check this now. Lonnie Liston Smith, 1975. What did he do? He did a track called Expansions. I've been looking at this particular album cover since 1981. And I was one day, I did a session down in Bristol at their planetarium, the Bristol Planetarium. And I'm setting up the thing, and I had this image. And the young brother who was running the thing, he says, "Oh, Lonnie Liston Smith." I said, "Oh, yeah, yeah." He said, "Yeah, he played here 6 months ago." I said, get out of here. He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." But then still I didn't get it, because watch this now. I was at my friend's place and he was playing music through his TV. And then the cover came up, big TV screen. And I went, "Wait a minute, what's that?" And what did I see there? What did I see there in the background? Hagia Sophia, the Church of Holy Wisdom. Sophia, wisdom, the feminine, female wisdom. I've been looking at that since 1981 and never saw it, never noticed it, because I had to look at it with a fresh eye. The eye of Heru, the eye of the child. I see you. I see you. And so therefore I saw it. I was like, "Oh my gosh." I said, "Paul, I got this thing called a Book of Dawn." It said here, Hagia Sophia, Istanbul, Constantinople, the Church of Holy Wisdom, representing the divine feminine. You know, when you want to contemplate your navel, please remember that was a way God created you in this life, through your mother's belly, through the matrix. The word matrix means womb. You got to remember things like that. That thread, the divine thread of the divine feminine, taking us back to the beginning of all times as human beings. So we got to remember these kind of things. And these messages are left, right, and center. Let me go here. Brain, mind. The brain is like the earth. Why do I say that? Is because both have hemispheres. The right hemisphere is used more in Eastern philosophy. The left hemisphere is used more in Western philosophy. In actual fact, there's one of the his names, I've not got his name at the minute, but it says in the East they contemplate the forest, but in the West we count the trees. And the idea is that we should be doing a combination of the both. What goes on in the brain we call the mind, and what happens on the earth we call the world. And guess what? Whoever controls the mind controls the world. But further to that, check this now, where I'm going to tonight. Whoever controls their mind controls their world. And I know some of you have been watching this film, Scarface, right actor, wrong film. Watch Pacino in The Godfather. Much more constructive. Yeah, much more constructive. Thought out, methodical, etc., etc. 2 James Baldwin quotes. What did he say? I believe the past is all that makes the present coherent, and furthermore, that the past will remain horrible as long as we refuse to assess it honestly. Number 2, people pay for what they do, and still more for what they have allowed themselves to become. And they pay for it very simply by the lives they lead. That's from the film Bamboozled at the end of it. So please, these are hardcore. This is like tough love, if you will. The only person can be responsible for you is you. And then you work with other people. It's like Napoleon Hill talks about the mastermind collective, where you work with people on different things. So I'm going to suggest to you is this, is that we should be working, professionally, making sure we're getting on that level and working with people, but we also need to be healing on this personal level. So where Sisters Jarita's talking about working with his brothers and sisters in Atlanta for about our health and well-being and diet and all this. I'm just asking you to be more thoughtful about what you're actually bringing into you and what effects it has. Because if you're taking a diet in and it's making you angry all the time, that's stressful, that ain't good. So the conditioning, this is what Dr. Wilson says. We are the only people, I've got to find it, on the entire planet who've been taught to sing and praise our demeanment. Sorry. I am a bitch. I am a whore. I should say whore, sorry. I am a gangster. And a thug. And I am a dog. If you can train a people to demean and degrade themselves, you can oppress them forever. You can even program them to kill themselves, and they won't even understand what's happened. So this is where we seem to be. It's where we seem to be still today. The need for Black History, do this quickly. Black History Month. I always say this because we're heading to Black History Month next month. And what happens is every time we say black, we say lack inside. So we've got Lack History Month is what we're actually saying. We lack the historical knowledge about ourselves, whether about self-esteem or understanding how things have happened, etc. We get this. We have to have this now. Hebrew has no word for history. Check this now. Judeo-Christianity, the lineage of those religions, the root is Hebrew, and it has no word for history. The term Zakor means memory. It means memory, not history. It's active and experiential. It also means to think, mention, and record results from purposeful action. That's why I'm saying with having the idea there of having the alchemic structure. Your purposeful action is what you're reading. So therefore you understand it. I'm reading, oh, I'm doing that for that purpose. I'm having that for that purpose. This is what is going to nurture within me. And part of the healing, when Brother Andrew said before, you got to unlearn what you have learned. Well, then what Tony Browder in Browder Files says, then fill up that void with fresh, clear knowledge. So what does it say? I believe it's Book of Isaiah. It says, wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. The stability of that. Wisdom and knowledge. Cut that thing. Knowledge is power. Knowledge, I know guys who've got knowledge like crazy and their life's a mess. I said, no, knowledge is not power. Knowledge gives you strength. Wisdom is power. Wisdom is power. Not so Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy days, of thy times. And that's what we got to get this information with purposeful action, with pure intention. A lack of history is a form of amnesia. What is amnesia? This is the lack in black. 18th century Greek, amnesia, forgetfulness. Definitions from Merriam-Webster Dictionary says, a loss of memory due to brain injury, shock, fatigue, repression, or illness. Mental illness, yes. What do you think the process of enslavement and colonization was? Nothing more and nothing less than abuse. That's all it was. And that's all it is, because it's with us generationally and repeating itself epigenetically. It's a gap in one's memory. How can you know that? How can you just say, if you are being taught in school, like we struggle, Black Lives Matters, and then what was it? Yes, we are teaching about slavery in history in schools now. What do you want to be talking about slavery for? Why would you want to be learning about slavery over and over unless it's to actually diagnose what needs to be healed? So telling black children, oh yeah, you were slaves. Yeah, we were slaves. Watch this. Follow what Jewish people do about the times of their persecutions. They teach about the persecution, but also how they got out of it. How they self-generated the freedom. Not be out, you're on this thing about, oh, it was granted. It was granted. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Yeah, William Wilberforce, he freed the slaves too. What's this about? What's that about? The selective overlook or ignoring of events or acts that are not favorable or useful to one's purpose or position. So what happens is, like I said to you, a rapist does not mind talking about the rape because it's a reminder of the power they had over their victim. And so this is a dynamic that needs to be looked at. So we struggle to get to, oh, please talk about us. Can we please come in? What best advertisement for a nightclub is a queue outside. Oh, must be something good going on over there. So I say, that's it. We play begging, please, master. Please, I'm not a brother, a man and a brother. Please, master. No, get a picture of Leonard Parkinson, the captain of the Maroons, an ass kicker or nanny. Go get those things and remind yourself that you fought and struggled for your freedom, and keep reminding you of those things. And don't be asking the people who perpetrated that stuff to free you. Don't be doing that.
Paul. Brothers and sisters, are you feeling my king? Put some ones in that platform. Tell the brother that he smells. Tell the brother that he's smelling up the platform, because Paul, you're kicking at facts a billion times a second. Jurita, what did you want to say?
I'm just literally sitting here, like just sucking all of this up. It is amazing. Thank you so much. I do have two questions for you. The first is, somebody's asking about what the green symbol is behind you on your PowerPoint slides as well.
That's my Lineage Innovations logo, and it's a hammer and an anvil. I'm a child of Ogun, so in a Risha tradition. So it's a blacksmith's anvil and the hammer.
Oh, interesting. And Andrew S. asks, why is the brain categorized in Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy when it was in existence way before Western philosophy even came into existence?
That's a really, really good question, but I'm talking about now. And we're in the hands, our education system is in the hands of Europe and Europeans. And so that's why I'm starting with this thing now. If he wants to go, what I usually do, I'll show the brain hemispheres chart, and then I have a picture of Ma'at and Chehuti, the two Netaru, next to the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. Well, because I'm not doing that tonight, I don't want to get into that. So that's the ancient knowledge. And when we go on the timeline, you must remember this. Don't use the term ancient Egypt, use the term Kemet or ancient Kemet. Egypt was the point in history, 322 BC, when the Greeks took over the land of Kemet and called it Egypt Aegyptus. So we need to keep reminding ourselves of that difference, because you go to a museum and they'll show you artifacts from Egypt, not from Kemet. So that's what I say. If we're going to start with the history, that's why I use this thing about right and left. In the east, they contemplate the forest. The west, they count the trees. We're talking about the shift that they've done. So, for instance, there's a song by Supertramp, an old rock band called "Logical Song," and it says, "When I was young, I thought that life was so wonderful, a miracle. It was beautiful, magical, and all the birds in the trees were singing so happily, playfully, joyfully, watching me. But then they sent me away to show me how to be sensible, practical, logical. And they showed me a world where I could be so dependable, intellectual, and cynical. But then it says there are times when all the world's asleep. The questions run too deep for such a simple man. Can you please tell me what we've learned? I know it sounds absurd, but please tell me who I am." And so we can come out of education, the education system here, knowing nothing about our brains, nothing about our, look at that, personal and social health education, PSHE, poorly taught. People going like still don't know what they're going on with. So that's why I'm starting here and now about how they're getting us to use our brains today. Yeah, and we start to unlock those understandings. Sorry, that was a long answer. Sorry about that.
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much. I'll let you get on.
Okay, thank you. So you see, I say lineage there. You see the letter L is actually in the form of the throne crown from Kemet. So when we're talking that is the throne that or Set will be sat on with Heru. And so that lineage, please remember the lineage, the age of the line. Yeah, remember you're the living, breathing, walking, talking representative of every ancestor who's ever lived, and they're alive in you today. You are it. Yeah, is it like that game of playing Ticky It? Well, you're it. You got the job. Mind control. So this is, of course, when you control the human, Carter G. Woodson, when you control the human's thinking, you do not have to worry about their actions. You do not have to tell them to not to stand here or go yonder. They will find their proper place and will stay in it. So imagine their proper place may be, because I've been looking at the blues. I've been looking at the consciousness towards oppression. Also, I don't deal with that. So there's not an expectation that you'll either enter in a place or go there because you don't belong there, because of how you've been conditioned and hypnotized to believe. You do not have to send them to the back door. They will go there without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, they will cut one for their special benefit. Their education makes it necessary. So please look at the word black, remove the L, it says back. And then I was working with some children in Nottingham the other week. So I think it was the third day. These are like 8 to 16 years old. And then I just said to them, I said, have you noticed this? I said, as soon as you come into the room, where do you feel you go further away from the knowledge? But if it was a rap group or a singing group, or that, you'd be there at the front wanting to know. And so what I did, I showed them that thing. I said black, and I said take the L out. It says back, and then I put the L back in, and then I said by sitting at the back, I took the B off the front. I said then you lack, because you got distractions that'll take over you, etc. So it's just my little peculiar way of dealing with things. So this is 1933, a book called Miseducation of the Negro. This is the founder of Black History Month. It started as Negro History Week, and then over the decades built into Black History Month. Mental slavery. They took the shackles from our wrists and our ankles, and they put their chains on our brains. So emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Please don't just remember Bob Marley, remember Jacob Marley. You know, Jacob Marley is the guy, the ghost in the Christmas Carol. With all the chains, I made it link by link and hour by hour. All that business. Jacob Marley, not just Bob Marley. And start to get into that thing. When you get down to the Christmas time, have a think about fasting over the solstice, the winter solstice. Think about fasting. Look at your past, your present, and your future, and project for the current year. Think about using the time wisely, not running around last minute for Christmas shopping. Take yourself away and be calm. You can possibly do that. So none but ourselves can free our minds. That's what Marley was singing there. And Jacob Marley was giving you an insight in how we forged the links. We forged the chain. We're actually persuaded to put those things on by the system and our lifestyles. So the need for silver. So encourage the repair and any inherent danger. That's what the silver level is for on the alchemic structure. I can't say this enough. It's like I try and encourage that with people. Please find yourself, I'm talking about a healer, creditable stuff, whatever it is. But please first realize that we've got that to do. We've got that to do. And it says there, natural, you, natural you. So here we go. It's your choice. Some of you may want to go like, no, I'm not into that. I don't need to do that. I said, well, okay, that's your choice entirely. Your choice entirely. Kwame Nkrumah said, the secret of life is to have no fear. False education accepted as reality. False evidence appearing real. Whatever you want to use an acronym. But the secret of life is to have no fear. That's why we've been on this diet of fear via the media, by the press, by everything for the last 18 months or 20 months or whatever now. 2 natural fears. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy has said there are 2 natural fears only. Sound and falling. Sound and falling. Reaction to shock, reaction to gravity. The Moro reflex in babies is where the baby will grab, they rock the baby back and they grab like this. The Moro reflex, named for the doctor who named that. But then, you know, when you got sisters backing their babies, tying the baby on the back and walking around carrying on with those things, it's a warmer, more effective, healthy way of treating the child than shoving them in a pram and then pushing the pram out and they're, oh, never mind. But there are only 2 natural fears, the fear of sound and the fear of falling. All others are socialized, taught to us by family, friends, and educators. That's from Joseph Murphy, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. In the film After Earth that got panned, this is what Will Smith's character, Cypher Rage, says. He says, the only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. That's where you can see certain people, they just walk up and down. It's like, okay, I don't know. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no ill. Find the biggest, baddest mother person that's around the place. Yeah. So Malcolm X, Afro-American history, he talks about in there slave making. So if you're going to go in with the purpose of finding out about slave making from this one, I remember reading this, and I had my first argument at what was it? I was up all night reading it. I had my first argument at about 7:30 in the morning. The last one the following morning about 3:30 because I wanted to whip somebody. Man, got me angry, really, really angry. But it's a phase that we go through. Check out the work of William Cross. Look up William Cross and nigrescence. William Cross, nigrescence. Please have a look at that. It helps with the process. Statement by Jeff Brown. It's up to you. It's always up to you. You can deny, repress, distort, and bury your unresolved wounds all you want. You can reframe them. You can pseudo-positivity them, detach from them, spiritual bypass them. You can rename yourself, hide away in a monastery, turn your story around, and you can spend all your money on superficial healing practices and hocus pocus practitioners, but it won't heal a damn thing. If you don't do the deeper work to excavate and heal your primary wounds, because the material is still there right where you left it, ruling your life and controlling your choices. This is the nature of unhealed material. It is alive, and one way or the other, it will manifest in your lived experience. It will language your inner narrative. It will obstruct your path and limit your possibilities. It lives everywhere that you live. And you also have to decide, excavate it and bring it into consciousness where it can be worked through and integrated, or repress it and watch it rule your life. It's one of the hardest truths we have to face. If we don't deal with our stuff, it deals with us. And there's no way around this. So choose. I think that's quite rough. I think Jeff Brown is rough. But I wholeheartedly agree with it. I wholeheartedly say we should be placing our minds where they need to be. And that's the healing and connecting with our ancient truths. And we have to reframe ourselves. And the starting point that I try and put forward to people is it's like on the timeline, right down the middle, there's a yellow line. And that yellow line represents the golden thread, the mitochondrial DNA of the mother principle. Yeah, our golden thread. So you've seen the film in it, latest versions and everything. It plays upon the darkest fears of people. It persuades people to carry out certain actions. It wakens and carries out actions beyond our control. So it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be dealt with. Agenda awareness. We have professional and personal agendas, agenda A, agenda B. I'm going to do this very quickly. But agenda C is the healing agenda. Let me just get to this quick. That's professional competent. When you're professionally competent, this is the only PC I deal with, by the way. Professional competence and personal confidence. Yeah, you're personally confident. What did Marcus Garvey said? If you have no confidence in self, you're twice defeated in the race that is life. With confidence, you've won even before you've started. And what does confident mean? Fidelius, meaning truth in Latin. Truth. Telling the truth. Got to get rehumanized, guys. Rehumanized. The kayak story. Just do this quick. This is Dr. Kerry Spackman. And in the book, The Winner's Bible, it tells a story of where he challenged his friend, who was this blonde beach god, who was a kayak champion, and he challenges him to a race. And what happens is he goes in front of all their friends. He goes, "I'm going to beat you." And so everybody's laughing at him. They go, "Mate, you know, he's from New Zealand." He's going, "Mate, no, you'll never beat him. You can't beat him, possibly, and whatever." And he's going, "No, I will. I'm going to beat him. I'm going to beat him." But do you see beneath the surface there? Do you see that thing there? You see this thing, the rudder? See the rudder? Kerry Spackman had turned the rudder to the side. So when the race started, bang, the champion's kayak was just spinning around in a big circle because there was no alignment. Yeah, so the intention at the surface was undermined by the motivation and direction beneath the surface. That's it, you know, we use that thing of the, what do you call it now? The iceberg effect. So all the deep subconscious, unconscious things that have been planted in us. So our agenda A, our professional, our agenda B, personal, are not aligned. They're not in one. And so therefore we can't get there. I keep saying this, I'm cold, like when I teach in schools, when I teach youngsters, I go, agenda A, what's that? Agenda academics. Well, what does it say on the timetable you're here to do now? And I go like, it says English. I said, so why are you doing something else in the classroom? Why are you not subjecting yourself to the subject? And please remember this. There's a brother out of Morehouse College. He said, we talked about kings and queens and all that. He said for the young people, the crowns are above your head. Well, you got to grow up into them. You got to grow up into them. Otherwise, you'll go off to the side and you'll miss the crown. And this is what's happening now. I meet a load of guys, and I'm going like, what the hell are you doing in there? And what's this? When I go to year 11s, I'm going like, you're going to tell me you're going to do your exams now? And I said, what's your predicted grades? And they go like, oh, well, and I said, what? You're going to tell me that after 14,300 hours from 4 years old to 16 years old, you can't get one GCSE? What the hell have you been doing in school? But this is exactly, you don't stop them. You let them self-destruct. Was it Damian Marley said, let's face it, a ghetto education's basic, and most of the youth then waste it. And when they waste it, they let the guns replace it, and they don't stand a chance at all. So that's it. When you got that thing, it's all a game. They don't have to stop young black people and other white people, whatever, getting educated. They do it themselves, and they think it's just the expectation.
Boy.
So let me go with this life cycle. This is the life cycle. The life cycle starting off here. Well, let's go with this. Irondu means plan for life. And this is Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He was a very deep, find out about that guy. He's a white dude, Roman Catholic mystic, etc. He got sanctioned by the Vatican for the stuff he was teaching. And he said, we are spiritual beings, have a human experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So the plan for life means that when we start off with this thing, please, it says here the spiritual realm. I know it's faded there. It says spiritual realm. And then here we start off parental intention. Now the word in brackets underneath, what does that say? I go 1, 2, 3, pronounce the word. 1, 2, 3, say it out loud. Who said recreation and who said recreation? Who said recreation and who said recreation? Exactly the same word. But if I say, was the sex you were having, was it intentional, recreational sex, Or was it Jucky Jam, you were doing a wild thing and it was recreational sex? Which one was it? So you see, what happened is in Perry, you're going to go to the next level here. You have conception. You're going to conceive. Who conceives? Of course, the mother. Even though I've been seeing some very strange stuff recently, and there's that rapper who did a picture of himself. What's he called? Little Nas X.
Yeah,
did a picture of himself with a pregnant belly.
Little Nas X. Look at the name they give him.
It is. Yeah, but then he's the guy doing the what was it? The satanic trainers as well, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Anything to sell. Anything to sell. Anyway, we go on to here with pregnancy. Bruce Lee, for instance, when he died, he was classed as 33 years old, Chinese age, 32 years old, European age, because the Chinese, they class the time in the womb as a year. And that's, of course, the class womb. We first hear in our mother's womb from 7 months. So we have pregnancy, then we go to birth, then we go to childhood, and then we have formative development. Remember, give me the child before the age of 7, and I will give you the man. But the word man does not mean male. Please remember this. The word man does not mean male. It means mind. It's a Sanskrit Indian term, man, meaning mind. Give me the child before the age of 7, and I will give you the mind. And if you got messed up when you were young, you might spend all your life trying to get yourself back in line, back aligned. So 7 years old, that's we start the puberty and adolescence preparation. Yes? Then we move on there to 13 years old or 12 years old, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah in Jewish culture, self-governance and social literacy. Talk to that brother called Twilight Bay about social literacy. And what are we doing there? Adulthood preparation. We're getting our children ready to become adults, conscious, having ability, etc., etc. Then you go here to 25 years old, junior eldership, 37 years old, senior adulthood, junior adulthood, at 25 years old, junior adulthood, senior adulthood, 37 years old, 49 years old, junior eldership, then 61 years old, senior eldership. Then we go 73, wise eldership. And then we have ancestral preparation, which really should be going on all the way through. That's not saying you're going to die at 85 or 100 or whatever. You live as long as you want. But then what we're talking about is that we're getting better all the time. Then, of course, we've got death and then ancestry. And then in things like a Yoruba, they believe in reincarnation. Now watch this. This guy at 13, this guy is a very important thing because in AD 553, Emperor Justinian, on the say-so of his wife, who was called Theodora, they say because she found ways as a woman to get to marrying the emperor, and she'd done all kinds of bad things to people, she said she did not want to have the idea of reincarnation and consequence of karma. So therefore, she got the church to banish the teaching of reincarnation at that point. That's the Eastern Roman Empire, Byzantine Empire. So what he ends the Christian teaching of reincarnation. Those who know the word, you know that, for instance, John the Baptist was said to be a reincarnation of Elijah. But then they stopped this teaching of that and they outlawed it. You only have one life and we're going to control it. You have one life, so be frightened because you can die and we're doing the killing. So be careful. So imagine cultures, people in the world who were going, well, no, we're going to die. That's the only thing we're certain of. So it was death and taxes. But so therefore, this becomes a very, very important dynamic. So what goes on here? The interface model, building self-awareness. I'm only going to go through this really, really quickly because what's going to happen, we're talking about cultural capital. What cultural capital do you have? I'm talking about respect for your culture. What you're talking about, what your knowledge of your culture and people who are like you. So cultural capital, the accumulation of knowledge, behaviors and skills that a person can tap into to demonstrate one's cultural competence and social status. Pierre Bourdieu and Jean-Claude Passeron, 1973 as a quote. So here we have an interface model. You see this here, that's my boy on the left. That's, I don't know who that boy is on the right, but here we're talking about a child of African descent and a child of European descent. Agenda A, professional, agenda B, personal. And what happens is person one will bring in their history, their personal history, and their cultural capital. What do they know about themselves? How have the parents nurtured knowledge about people who look like them, etc.? They'll bring in what you call their color, their culture, their class, and their character into the context, which can be either personal or professional, and they'll give them a sense of status. Well, guess what? Person two, they're going to come in and have their history and cultural capital. So imagine you're a white child in school, and the historical curriculum being taught is nurturing all about empowerment and whatever. So even if it's saying, yes, you slave black people, you're telling them, yeah, they got the power. We got the power to do that. And so it becomes a nurturance for them, whether it's good, bad, or happy, sad, whatever. But check this now. When I came back from Brazil, I was doing some supply teaching. And the children have been reading a book called, in this special school, they've been reading a book called Kenzo's War, about a Japanese guy and a young white child. They're marooned on a desert island. And the Japanese guy still thinks that the war is still on. So what happens is, they finished reading the book, and so the support worker said, can they watch Tom Hanks in Castaway? So I says, okay. So I tried to get it online, couldn't get it. And so what happened was, I thought, oh, wait a minute, I know something. I don't know if they'll like it. It's an old black and white thing called da 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 da. Now, if you know that tune, you're old, like me. And that is Robinson Crusoe, German-French production, dubbed. And there it was. It used to be on after school. They used to be on once a week after school. And what happened was, so I got this. These youths were like, what? Gobset, the mouth drops open. They're going like, whatever. So young Robinson is from Hull. And what happens is he wants to go and become a sailor. He wants to go and make his fortune. And what happens is his father wants him to be a lawyer. So he gets his way. He goes off to sea. He gets shipwrecked in the North Sea, first of all. And then so he comes by, and then he goes out on another ship. And then on that route, he was kidnapped by corsairs, Turkish or Moorish sailors, pirates. They call them corsairs. So then he was sold as a white slave into Morocco for 3 years. And I'm sat there watching this thing. I said, I don't remember this. I never saw that. And then what happens is he escapes in a boat. Cut long story short, he's got this little black boy with him who was also a slave by the Moors. And so what happens is he gets picked up by a Portuguese slave ship. He goes to Brazil. The captain thinks that the black boy is his slave, so buys him from him. He gets set up as a plantation owner in Brazil. And then what happens is 3 other plantation owners come to him, wanting him to do a slave run down to Guinea. And because they know that he's been a sailor, he's been over there, those sides. So it's on that journey that he gets shipwrecked. And watch this, after 27 years, you hear that this crazy bastard, you hear that this crazy bastard can see the coastline of Brazil from the top of the mountain on the island. Shipwreck is a crazy man. So this is what I'm trying to say to you. What they're not going to do is tell you about these corsairs, that what happened was from the 1300s, 1400s, whatever, the corsairs were slaving as high as Iceland, down Scotland into Ireland. Look, for instance, the town, the original Baltimore, all the inhabitants were taken into the North African slave trade. And so they're not teaching you this kind of thing. They're not teaching you that, yeah, Portugal and Spain, the corsairs were slaving Spanish and Portuguese people, which is why Prince Henry the Navigator took over the town of Ceuta in Morocco, but got his elder brother and father to sanction it. And then he got himself involved in the North African slave trade, which had been going on for around about 1,000 years up to that point. So, of course, the British, watch this, Lundy Island in the Bristol Channel. Look up Lundy Island. It flew the Moroccan flag from 1627 to 1634. This is why the British eventually, when they got the ships of the line and they got the naval, the sea power, a song was designed. It was called Rule Britannia. Britannia rules the waves. Britons never, never, never shall be slaves, because their asses were being slaved by the North African Empire. But they don't want to teach you that. Why? Because it's saying they did not have the power all the time. Do you see this? They don't want to teach that, because it's saying, oh, wow, you mean we're not supreme. See, they're going to bring color, culture, class, character into the context. Then you have a sense of status again. So the interface model, just imagine behind the history or the lineage timeline goes right back 8,000 years behind my son. He knows it. It's so much so I don't even teach it to him. And then around here, there's a history, the lineage timeline for this guy. But his cultural relevance, going back to ancient Greece, goes back to 1200 BC, to the Dark Age period, etc. They say the heroic ages before that. It's funny, there's a guy, a professor online, I was in LinkedIn, and what happened was this professor was saying, oh yes, well, of course, the Greek philosophers, they did this, that, and I just said, after a while, he put his down, I just said, well, sir, I find it very interesting that if you go back to 1200 BC, Prince Kamwazret, the son of Ramesses II, was talking about an African Renaissance, where he said that the Kemites should go back to the first and second dynasties to re-improve and reconnect with the qualities of those times there, 2,000 years before. And that was a Greek Dark Age. Don't get tricked by these things. That's all the timeline's about, is making sure it's just a map. You know where in history and when in history things occurred. That's all it's about. It's a very, very simple tool. Eckhart Tolle, no time, clock time, psychological time. No time, clock time, psychological time. The now, the present is no time. This is when we're in our group. You know, have you ever been that in your group? You know, when you're just on your groove and you don't even notice time? And then you got this purposeful applied time, clock time, when you say, I'm going to get this done in so many minutes, hours, days, or whatever. Purposeful applied. But the psychological time in the minute is the ego. And the ego is what this society nurtures in us. It's the ego, the defensiveness. Why? Your ego is like a bodyguard. And the bodyguard that was defined, you had to have your ego to protect yourself from all the mess around you. But then watch this. The ego is like a bodyguard that doesn't want to become an unemployed bodyguard. So it keep introducing you to scenarios, situations, and people that will mess you up. And nurture that, and then you'll be getting nurtured by this food, nurtured by this egotistical food that's going to make you even more defensive instead of being healed. So what goes on? We say going with the natural time flow. Look at the word block age, and the word dam age. A dam stops the flow of water. The block contains things and won't move. So look at the age. What age did your blockage start? And what age did you get damaged? Ask yourself some simple things like that. So the search for a historical continuum, please remember this. Dr. Rashidi quoted this in his book. He said, even the most hostile racist writers usually prove the very opposite of what they intended. Their works inevitably contain useful factual data that must be accepted. Indeed, it's doubtful whether anybody, even a devil, could write a book completely devoid of truth. Research in African history is more tedious, laborious, and time-consuming than is true in any other unsuppressed fields. For in developing the undeveloped history of the Blacks, one has to explore the most unlikely sources for fragments here and the fragment there. This on the African presence in early Europe, edited by Dr. Ivan van Sertima, Blacks in early Britain. Please check out these dynamics. I always remember taking a copy of a BBC script from 1961 from a program called Calling the Caribbean. It was broadcast at 11:45 GMT on the 11th of April, which was Good Friday, on the Yellow Network. It was written by Professor Edward Scobie. It was called The Three African Popes. And I went through to the Leicester, BBC Leicester. And then when I said, this Cardinal Arinze, they said, might have become the first Black Pope. And the guy who was the interviewer, he said, well, what about that? And I said, well, there's been three already. He said, three Black Popes? I said, what? Where's your evidence for this? So I pulled out the BBC script, passed by the BBC Religious Affairs Department. St. Pope Victor, St. Gelasius, and Miltiades. They're the three African popes acknowledged. But if you go on the Vatican website, you'll see their physiognomies are not done in looking like Africans. But it's just one piece of information. That's all it is. But I was able to blast this guy out and give him a thing from his own BBC, you see. I like doing things like that. So anyway, real history. What we're talking about now is personal archaeology. I'm saying to you, never mind the archaeology of the big history outside, start and get a framework for the personal archaeology. Agenda C, healing. Remember, Agenda C, healing. And then what do we got here? Levels of history. Let me go like this. Myth, legend, you know, that big history, the big history that's there. We have ancient history, then just general history, modern history, which you usually study in frigging Hitler. And then you got history, social history, familial history, your family history, and then your personal history. These are all the different levels. I love jumping up and down all the time between those different levels. Love it, absolutely love it. And evolving consciousness. I've got to see what I'm going to do very quickly. This is the personal involvement factors that led to the creation of the lineage timeline. I hope you don't mind this. I'll whisk through quickly. So I'm starting off with childhood number 1. So remember the period of childhood that's in the middle here. I'll do this really, really quickly. So section 1, it's providing the context, right? Birth to 7 years old. So I was born and raised in 1959. Oh, by the way, let me show that. This is what they call the Tudor Rose. It's a gang sign. I don't know if you know that. It's a gang sign. It's the House of Lancaster, the gang of Lancaster surrounding the gang of York, the House of York. So you had the thing called the Wars of the Roses, and all it was back in the day, they were just 2 big sets of gangs. But in history, we shall look today at the role and function of the war, what became known as the War of the Roses, where the rival knights from each, you see, they put a spin down on it. There's a bunch of violent bastards. That's all it was, cracking each other's heads and chopping each other up. And look at this thing now. They found Richard III, the body of Richard III, they said, in a car park in Leicester. And you want to see that. Why did they big up Richard III? He was the last English king. There's been no English king since then. Was it? The next after that were the Tudors from Wales. Then they had to go to Scotland to bring down the Stuarts. Then after the Stuarts, they went over. They had a king from Holland. From, you know, you say Dutch. It's just West Germany, Western Germany. And then after that, all the kings and queens have been Germans. So, for instance, the Queen's family name is not Windsor. That's the adopted name. Their actual name is Saxe-Coburg-Gotha or Goethe. Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. In actual fact, the spawny Germans in the First World War actually bombed London with a bomber called the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, the 4th bomber, I think it is. It's actually on the timeline. I've got it on the timeline. I have to put it on there because I find that quite funny. Killed 200 people or something, and they dropped leaflets as well, telling the population, well, don't you know that your king and queen are German? You don't know that your king's German. And so that's why they changed the name, to protect the guilty. So anyway, that's me. I was born in Preston and then raised in Blackburn. I'm English Igbo. I've never met my father, but he's Igbo. And my mother's English. I'm British. I'm English Igbo, British Nigerian, European African, and that's my mix. This is my family. As you see here, this is the family I was raised in. I've got no black influence there at all. Yeah, but there's certain things that really, how can I put it? Well, I just let me tell you on with that. So I was christened Paul Taylor. I was christened as Paul Taylor. That was my name back then. Infant school, 3rd of April, 1963. I was there 63 to 66. My first day in school, I went up the slide before this Scottish boy. I stabbed you with my petty knife, you black bastard. That's a petty knife. It's a paring knife. So it's likely that his parent, one of his parents, was in the cookery, cooking or chef trade or something like that. But yeah, that was my introduction to black bastard. That's the day I became black. I wondered what the hell was going on, because from my background, I didn't know anything about that. And then what happened was, I went home. My mother's reaction was, "You're golden brown color. You're half English and you're half African." So on that day, I also became black and then African on the same day. So I was socially black, but mentally African. So I started telling stories about when I was young and lived in Africa and things like that. So if anybody called me African, I was all right. But if you called me black, I'd fight. That was my thing. Then there was a U factor. I was unusual and ugly. So I grew up believing I was ugly because I didn't look like the other children who were in the, well, I say kids in them, play. I didn't look like them. I always remember as well, I got this mentality. The boy who threatened me on the first day, 6 months later, he was beating up somebody and I whacked him out. And I dealt with him. And then when they said, what was the fight for? I told them like it was yesterday, 6 months previous. And they were like, what? And I think it was my mom and my godmother were going like, oh boy, he got a strong sense of justice, I think is what they call it. I think they call it these days. I'd be probably put on some drugs or over and sent for anger management. School book. This is a school book, 1964, Little Black Sambo, Helen Bannerman. An unabridged, full-color, original 99 text by Helen Bannerman of a very brave boy outsmarting bullies of the world. This faithfully reproduced 1922 version has majestic fonts, layout, and illustrations of Florence White Williams. The book is reproduced with a weathered look to give the book a classic feel at an affordable price. There's a story that has thrilled generations of children with its tense and exciting tale of victory. Controversy surrounds the book due to Bannerman's choice of names, which were common for the time. So it's Mumbo and Jumbo, I think the parents are called. This edition of Little Black Sambo preserves the same words and illustrations that are in the memories of adults who enjoyed the story as children, so that people can decide for themselves if it is a derogatory tale or that of a champion boy. For a deeper view of the time and race relations, one can read the Much Ado About a Name section in the appendix of Dr. Carter Woodson's book, The Miseducation of the Negro, 1933. Now, you see, I bought this book. I got it online. I didn't know that reference is on it. But I was like, oh, damn. But believe me, there's nothing about that book. I just thought this boy was dumb. And that black thing. So if he said African, gladly it didn't say African. And what are tigers doing in friggin' Africa? Anyway, I don't know. So those are the those things. These are the way that people have to make apologies now and you know, get things done. So Agenda C, that kind of stuff. Agenda C is what we need to be healed from. Bring it to the surface, bring it into the consciousness, and deal with it. Founder of Black History Month, Carter G. Woodson, very important brother. But there, I'm talking twin pillars of consciousness there again. Consciousness towards oppression, consciousness towards victory. Do you want the blues? Anyway, I'm going to go this quick. 22nd of November, 1963, family went to the cinema to see King Solomon's Mine with Stuart Granger and Jeffrey Kerr. What happened was they told the story of a witch doctor. So this is where it fueled my stories of fighting witch doctors in Africa and all this kind of business. The evening of their return was the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I remember it clear as a bell. And I was like, wow. So all these things mixing together and were triggering my memory from young. Result, when I was young and lived in Africa, became a standard thing, which my dad used to laugh about. And because he was a Plymouth Brethren Reverend, he went around, he did speaking in different churches. And then a few times he mentioned, you know, the fact that I used to talk like that. And so, yeah. Evolving consciousness story. So childhood 2, section 2, the context, 8 to 13. I'm going to fly through this. Black presence, a role model and a team. So these are the images that I was getting hold of. So first of all, of course, Muhammad Ali was loud and brash and whatever. And I used to listen to my mom say, oh, he's a big head. And I used to be saying, telling the truth, I loved him up just because somebody looked like me. But then Eusebio, I was at home one day. I came back from outside having had another fight, and there was a lodger we had who was a Freemason, and he became a topic of conversation. I think I was about maybe 7 years old, and when I started getting angry about these children, he says, "Look," he said, "you look like Eusebio." And I said, "What?" He said, "You look like Eusebio." So I'd seen Eusebio, a bit of him in 1966. But then what happened was in 1968, the greatest football team in the world, this is especially for that bloody guy came to my class in a Liverpool. Manchester United played Benfica, who Eusebio played for. And of course we won it. I think it's 4-1. We won at Wembley. So Eusebio became, I was like, right, but then everything stopped in 1970. You see the team there, in Brazil, they're going to call it negro or mulatto. So or mulatto, negro, negra. So I see all these brothers playing in here, and I was just like, wow, this is it. So football stopped after that. I was just like gone. So this is nurturing me. Biafran tale. I come inside for dinner, vexed after another Biafran jokes and whatever. So this is just telling you the story of that. But then at the time, we had this going on. And at this time, this is the Biafran conflict that was happening. And so all the distended bellies and all this. So we're seeing this all the time. And so at this time, I was like, what can I say? I was wanting, thankfully, this Barry, a Freemason practicing his craft, told me about nurturing my personality. Now, watch this. I did not know I was Igbo and therefore Biafran until I was 21. So I went through all of this thing, and guys are telling me so, but I just looked at it. You see, my dad who raised me, you saw in the picture, he was a prisoner of war with the Japanese. So ostensibly, he was a slave to the Japanese for 3 years in the Second World War. So he did not play with the issues to do with starvation, because he starved, and big mortality rates of the prisoners and whatever. No respect from the Japanese being a prisoner of war. So this is a kind of the Biafran tale. I felt when I found out I was actually Biafran and Maibo, when I was, it hit me hard. That was when I was 21. But then what Barry had done is start the character building process that my mom and dad couldn't really do because they were white. They didn't understand this thing. But then he knew to get a character that I could identify with who was of color. So wherever he is, whatever, I don't care if he's a Freemason. Well, basically what he's supposed to be doing is character building anyway. So what happened was, next one, adulthood preparation phase. Girlfriends. I had these 3 girlfriends, 3 white girlfriends. This one I was 13. I wasn't allowed to hold hands within a mile of the house. Drunkard Scottish father was hunting me, and then became later my martial arts focus. When I started martial arts age 14, 15, he was who I was visualizing hitting. And then racially abusive mother. I knew after that there was a really bad incident where I'll not bother telling you that now, to another day. But from that, 16 years old, that was my last white girlfriend. And then after that, I went out with a mixed race girl, but Bajan English. Mother loved me, father liked me, but not if I was bad, not black. That was a totally different thing. So what I want to say to you is, my decision was at that age, no white girl. Oh, sorry, got to confess, when I went to college, I was a United Nations practitioner, but it was, and I traveled many continents. But what I'm saying is that those were the experiences that said that for me, I couldn't have that. I didn't want to face that racism, etc. But that's just me. So consciousness over towards oppression. I became a fighter. These are my heroes. Those 4 guys especially became my heroes. And I can always remember when I heard that Bruce Lee had died, because we didn't know Bruce Lee as well as we did Kwai Chan Kane at the time. And I was like, oh no, I hope David Carradine, and all this. And then later I got hold of Enter the Dragon and all the other things. Consciousness begins through Barbados, and then later Jamaica with 2 girlfriends. Then of course we had this band, Consciousness Towards Victory, called Earth, Wind and Fire.
Come on.
We're dropping the bombs and the artwork done by a Japanese artist. And so then it was a case of the esoteric, the spiritual and whatever. So I was picking up on that kind of stuff. Then of course, I've got to say things like Heptone's Book of Rule, and the reggae, that was the conscious reggae was coming through as well. And so we had, then of course, Songs of the Key of Life, 1976, Black Man by Stevie Wonder, lyrics by Gary Bird, and Stevie, of course, did the music and sang it. I've got this on PowerPoint, by the way. If you want a copy of that, I'll send it to through to Andrew, brother Andrew, and then hopefully he can forward that on to you. But it's like all you have to do. It's like comes up with the lyrics, and then you hit it, and it's got all the images that go with it, and it's quite lively for for your children or playing in a class or whatever. You just have to have the song to play with it. So, and he talks about black, red, brown, yellow, and white. Those are the colors he's talking about. And it's a kind of integrationalist song done in the bicentennial year, 1976. Roots and the Real Thing. Roots came out, and then the Real Thing, 4 from 8. Black Echoes newspaper ran an article on 4 from 8 from Liverpool 8, 4 from Liverpool 8. It was written by a guy called Sebastian Clark. So I read this when I was like 17, 18 years old. And then later I went with a guy called Amon Saba Sakana from Karnak House. He's a writer, he's an organizer events of or whatever. And so I went with Saba to Ghana for the first time. And this is when I was 30 years old. And then I found out about 5 years ago that Saba, who I went to Ghana with, his European name was Sebastian Clark. He was the guy who turned me on to history through the article in Black Echoes newspaper. And I'm like, What? So sometimes we meet people and we're inspired by people, and you know, we don't fully know why that is. But this was very much consciousness towards oppression. It was the 4 from 8. It's like an identity about persecution, racism, and oh yeah, please. There's a BBC documentary. You see it on iPlayer. It's called Everything, and it's a documentary about the real thing from Liverpool. The Amu brothers, Dave Thomas, and of course Ray Lake. The Crown, The Awakening. When I was at college in, it would have been 1983, 84, something like that. And yeah, it was 83. It was 83. I see the thing there. I was in a town called Newcastle on the Line, not Newcastle on Tyne, Newcastle on the Line by Stoke-on-Trent. I was out of my face drunk in a nightclub. And what happened was I used to be quite a kind of, I was a big guy and, you know, muscled up and all this business. And what happened was I just heard some lyric from this song called The Crown. So I went up to the DJ. I said, give me the cover. And so he passed the cover. And so I was actually I think I asked him to start it off again. And I started reading up all of this stuff. And about first time I saw anything about Olmecs and Alkebulan and all these different things. So in my drunken stupor, I was like, I got this learning, and I was like, damn. And so later, when it made sense, when it was time for me to know this thing, it called forward in my consciousness. Lineage start time. So this is we're nearly finished now. Nearly finished. Ending: a search, a death, a promise, a challenge, and a response. So I went to I wanted to go and find my natural father. I started a search at the Nigerian embassy. Sunday, April 1st, 1984, which is my birthday, and it was Mother's Day. My dad, who raised me, died of a heart attack on the way to church. And so what happened was I was like, I just cried Obia. I thought there was some kind of spiritual thing going on. It freaked me out. But I had to make a promise and challenge myself that I would find out more about my heritage and my history and all of this. So this is the extended version, this cover of a thing I learned about race and racism. And I went and studied. And like I said, you got Leonard Parkinson there, down there. So this is, I just did this in Biro. I'm an artist by training, so I just did this in Biro and covered it. So that's the first thing I learned. So if you see there, they took the shackles from our wrists and our ankles and put their chains on our brains. And then when they came, they first had their Bible and we had our land. Now we have their Bible and they have our land. So the old African proverb. So this is where the journey began. And I had to make an apology as well. I've got to say this. I had to apologize for not knowing that this is what I felt I had to do, especially when I learned about the Malcolm X, when he said about the missing his missing brothers and sisters who died on the Middle Passage. And then later again, when I found out about Alzheimer, and I didn't realize. So it's like I did the first booklet, very much about consciousness towards oppression, not towards victory, towards oppression. A night read, I told you about this, the Mrs. 75 Million, which is in Afro-American history, Malcolm X. Highly recommend the book, but you have to be purposeful with the reason you're reading it. And then this final thing, I became a teacher, 25 to 37 years. I was in Manchester. When I went to Manchester, this is the coat of arms of Manchester. And of course, what you see there is a slave ship. Now, that bloody Rudy Littwood's team, Liverpool, yeah, Liverpool gets hit with, you know, this slavery thing. 40% of the trade was going through there in the 1760s, but Manchester was a home of free trade. And so basically they were the ones who were distributing the cotton. So the cotton, because of Lancashire, it's very damp round in Lancashire because of the Pennine Hills. So the cotton was brought into Liverpool. It would remain loose. So they spin the cotton over here on this side, and then they ship it over to Yorkshire. And then that's where the other scum team, Leeds United. But in actual fact, that's your next, Rudy, that's your next fixture, isn't it? The two scum teams playing Leeds versus Liverpool again. So anyway, they weave over in Yorkshire. They do the weaving. And so I'd be looking at this kind of information, because when I went to started teaching, this is what was on all the books. You had the coat of arms and all the exercise books and all the textbooks in Manchester when I went to the school. And so Yeah, there it is. There it is. So what is it there? It's a slave ship, and it's also on Manchester City's badge and on Manchester United's, but Manchester United's badge, right? Now, just let me tell you. City's badge is a slave ship, right? There's no doubt.
Make it plain, brother. Make it plain tonight.
Yeah, but watch this. If you look at Manchester United, that's more of a schooner shape, you see. It's a schooner. So it wasn't the no, they're both slave ships, I know. But what I mean is, what I mean is, the biggest rivalry is between Manchester United and Liverpool, and we hate each other. And it's like, you know, it's gone on for that. But it actually dates back to the English, it dates back to the American Civil War, where Manchester backed the Union and Liverpool backed the Confederacy. And what happened was they built ironclad ships over in Birkenhead and in Liverpool, and they sank Mancunian shipping. So therefore, Liverpool had to pay compensation to Manchester after the Civil War ended. But deeper than that, Manchester didn't want to deal with Liverpool at all, so they built the Manchester Ship Canal. And the Liverpoolians used to take the mickey out. They'd be saying, oh, they call it Manchester somewhere, Manchester on Sea. But then when they successfully built the ship canal, and then it went down into the Salford docks, which football club is right there at the Salford docks? But Man United, you see. So this is, even today, there's fights going on. They've got beef. It's a history of beef, I call it. It's really interesting. You'll find these things left, right, and center. So I did my first timeline. I drew my first timeline due to an argument I had with a teacher in school. She said Pythagoras' theory was used to build the pyramids. And so what happened was, let's see if I can get this. What happened was I drew up a timeline, and I dated Imhotep building the pyramid 2630, and then Pythagoras living 2,000 odd years after him. But then they call it Pythagoras' theory. Oh, I'm sorry, this thing's acting up. So what happened is, when you get this idea as well, please check this. I was talking with Tony Browder one night, and he reads, and we read on different things. And he said this chronology that they teach about the pyramid building, 150 years after the step pyramid at Saqqara, they build the Giza pyramids are built, right? And the mathematical accuracy, I mean, brother Andrew will start breaking down all of that for you. But then what happens is the mathematical accuracy was so great, you'd think that all the other pyramids following that will be also better still and accurate, but they're not. And what it means is that, this is what I was talking with Browder about, they're not from that age. They're from like 27, 30,000 years before.
Teach.
So this little piece of history that we've been shrunken into, this bloody chorale, we got to start getting some serious digging. So I only put down the timeline to show you what it is now. Robin Walker teaches a long chronology of Kemet. And I was talking with my brother from Black History Studies when we first met. First thing out is, why do you teach the short chronology? And I just laughed and I said, because that's the chronology that's used in all the history books. Robin uses a long chronology. Yeah, we got to know that. But you get confused. You start getting confused and everything if you start doing that. So that's what I'm trying to say to you. We got to start questioning that kind of gap that Rudy mentioned before, about 2,080 years, something like years between the Saqqara being built and Pythagoras. It's a nonsense. It's a non-starter, but that's how it's been put. Free your mind. Please check this. Please check this video. You can see it online, and list about Middleton, and in it, Asa Hilliard does this vertical timeline. And what I'll put this forward. It's the first time I've seen information done so, historical information, so cool, so funny, so kind of humble, the way these two guys were talking. And I saw this vertical thing, but then I've got to say this to you. I don't deal with the vertical, but let me just, in praise of Asa Hilliard, give you this one. Every year, there is a Christmas tree is given by Norway to Trafalgar Square since 1942, been gifted. And usually the tree standing over 20 meters tall and between 50 and 60 years old, the age of the tree. So that's a postcard of it. Now, the height analogy, Black history beginning with the enslavement, offers a larger sense of compared growth to some 530 years. So what I've done is, just let me put it, the Christmas tree, the general grant tree is a redwood. So if I go there, 25 meters, 50, 75, 100 meters high, right? There's a 25 meter, 20 meter tall tree in Trafalgar Square. So then what we have here is, that shows you the general grant tree, the giant redwood, taller than the Statue of Liberty, taller than the clock tower, which has just been repaired again, hasn't it? The Big Ben, or the clock. By the way, it ain't named for Benjamin Banneker either. Some people want to talk. But anyway, so these are the heights: 93, 96, 115.6 meters, a natural tree, right? And then down here, if I said that's 500 years to that height, 2,500 years to that height. Oh, sorry. Do you get what I'm saying here? This is how long that would be. Now, just let's check this. The Shard in London is 3, well, just check this now. We go like this, 1,000, 2,000. If these are the years, yeah? Instead of looking at the 500 years enslavement height of the Christmas tree, we got an 8,000 year continuum. They want you to look at a little Christmas tree as a gift. We're dealing with the history that's the equivalent of the Shard. So next time you're in London, you're looking at that Shard, be reminded. Don't be going on little 20 meter Christmas tree. Look at the Shard. That's your history. And that's how you've got to start. That's how you got to, and then all those different levels in the Shard. Start thinking in terms like that. So when I look at the Shard, I'm reminded of this vast amount of history, and that's only the short chronology. That's the short version. That's acceptable and taught by the European scholars.
Teach.
So just to finish, so what I did is turn it on its side, and then the lineage timeline. You see this timeline. This is just showing the continuum. You see the red in the background is representing BC, and the blue in the background represents AD, before Christ and Anno Domini, not after death, Anno Domini. So it began with consciousness towards victory by watching Dr. Asa J. Hilliard, Free Your Mind. And then the other videos called Master Keys. Please check both of those videos. We did this last time, it was about the OB, and this is about ownership. It's ownership. I started teaching adults from the Introduction to Black Studies by Karenga. History was number 1, psychology number 7. But then many people, however, do not wish to study history due to their psychology, because they say, oh, I'll start hating white people or Arabs if I start learning that. Consciousness towards their oppression, you see. So lineage strategy, therefore, brings the study of psychology to number 1, displacing history to number 2, and then all the other ones come after. I don't know if this makes sense. This gives us the term psychohistory, psychology in history. When you're reading history, it's having a psychological impact and effect on us. So if you keep reading history that's about oppression, murder, rape, and whatever, guess what? That's going to be triggering in your genetic core the last 500 years or 1,500 years. You'll keep triggering that fear, and you're not going to get things done. Seriously, you're going to be trapped in that corral. So just asking you to think about what you're reading, how you're reading, when you're reading, what you're watching, and what you talk about. I'm not talking about going with the cloud cuckoo lands and go with the fairies. I'm talking about reading to some purpose and reading for meaning. They were the 2 first English books when I was at infant school that we used, that I was taught, reading to some purpose and reading for meaning. Please remember those terms. And it's what you got, the word intention. Those who are Muslim, you know that you have the term niyyah. That's N-I-Y-A-H in English when they spell it. Niyyah, meaning intention. Yeah? We also use it in the Ngoza Saba. Niyyah, N-I-A. Niyyah, meaning purpose. I don't care which. Whichever it is, know what you're reading it for. Know why you're reading it. Build yourself, your confidence. Be true to yourself. Get yourself up that's the alchemic structure. Get to your own sense of platinum. Your Godhead, get up there, please. And then please watch this. In the book, Dr. Karenga cites 3 schools of Black psychology: traditional, reformist, and radical. When I'm doing work and whatever, I deal with a radical school. But please check out, traditional school is just white psychology applied to Black people. But then the reformist school is like the work of William Cross. I repeat again, nigrescence. Look up William Cross online, and it talks about pre-encounter, encounter, immersion, internalization, commitment, and its states of consciousness and being towards what we're learning. Psychohistory is the science of historical motivations. The discipline combines the insights of psychotherapy with the research methodology of the social sciences. This intends to understand the emotional origin of the social and political behavior of groups, nations, past and present. Think about that. Read, you got to study and understand. People keep saying to me, oh, we need Black studies. No, do you know something, parts of your Black studies? White studies. You need to understand the system that's been conditioning us. You got to, and that's all of us. When you hear the word slave, that derives to the term Slav, not Black. There's nothing Black there. That's Slav, Yugoslavian, Czechoslovakian. Take it out your diction. You use it as a process. No, it's not to do with you. In fact, then people, the Slavic people, they were slaved by the Moors in Spain. They call the Sakaliba from Eastern Europe. Please start working. This thing of Amos Wilson, the falsification of African consciousness. And he uses the term in there, psychohistory. Amos and Wilson. It's just, this is just, oh, let me finish with this. I gotta tell you, right. Realization of my cultural teachers. One day, Sunset Radio in Manchester, we were having a laugh. I was at home and I phoned in, and they were talking about, one of the guys, George, he said, sound systems in Manchester are rubbish these days. My mum and dad's blue spot gramophone could outplay them. And we just started laughing. And he said, yeah, and then he said, we should arrange a blue spot clash. And then I said, you get all the blue spots in a hall and then we play on the blue spot gramophone. And I said, yeah, but make sure that it's got the, that it has to have the pot fish and the pineapple ice bucket. And it's got to have the doily carty cloth on it. And everybody's laughing. Those are all the Caribbean guys. They're all laughing, right? And then this guy, John Leacock, who's a, oh God, he took me out of the game totally because he just said, Paul, did your mum and dad have a blue spot? Because he knew my mum and dad were white. We didn't have that. And he just took me out of the game and I went, oh God. And I said, how did I know all of that? How did I know that? Sunset Radio meeting, phone in, George's blue spot clash with, yeah, that's a blue spot. Drinks cupboard, you know, and all that business. So doily cart, put the pot fish in the pineapple ice book. Leakey's revenge, he got me back because we're always on each other when we used to go on the show, you see. So that's how he took me out. But this is how I knew. My cultural teachers from Barbados, Jamaica, Dominica, from St. Vincent, from Barbados. And then finally, like I said, at college, I was United Nations. And then I went to Jamaica when I went to Manchester. Yeah, my girlfriends, they're the ones who basically civilized me, so especially Diana, who was from St. Vincent, well, actually Beckway, not St. Vincent, Beckway. And she was the one who civilized me and turned me from being, you know, the guy who was not, even though I was rinsing pots and whatever, she just went to another level with it all. And that's how I learned my culture. And that's how I became familiar with things. And I had this drive to know, just want to know and whatever. That's it, really. I hope what I'm asking you is please get into this thing. Know yourself, do the excavation on yourself, and don't be afraid of it. Secret life is to have no fear. Brother Andrew, thank you.
Wow. Brothers and sisters, you know I'm not guessing. The brother took us on a journey of himself, which included a journey for ourselves. Brother Paul, and you know, I've been watching the chat line. Paul, I hope that you can read something. I'll try and send it to you via email. You've got to see the comments being made, brother. I mean, you've touched a lot of us, brother. You took us down memory lane, but you've done it on a psychological, historical, and mathematical basis. Wow, brother. pure love, brother. You deserve 3 shredded weeks after tonight, brother, because you gave, no, on a real tip, brother, you gave everything of yourself. You emptied yourself today, brother. And respectfully, brother, because you went personal, you went private, and you know, it's an honor that you really literally just said, you know what, this is my life. And you know, this is what you can learn. This is what you may even want to unlearn. And brother, we thank you and we bow to you on that basis, brother. And you kept hundreds and hundreds of us still on there, beloved, all walking with you, all walking with you. Jarita, was that not phenomenal?
It was absolutely outstanding. And I always love your passion and your delivery and your enthusiasm and the humor that kind of runs through it every now and again. I'm like, oh God.
Especially against Liverpool.
Oh, well,
No,
football comes up as a problem, clearly, but there's a few other bits of humor in there that I just absolutely love. The only question that I'm going to ask, I'm aware of time, and so there are a few questions, but the only one that I am going to put right now is one from Olive. She asks, says that she's got a timeline from over 15 years ago. She just wants to know if it's been updated since.
Yes,
and should you, yes, okay.
Several
So
times.
if you need to get another one, Olive, to get the most up to date.
So brothers and sisters, please, Jarita, I know you've been putting it down so many times. Put the link for the timeline. You've got to get this timeline, brothers and sisters. When I went to Birmingham on Saturday, it was the timeline that I had in my bag to bring out for the audience. I don't play with that timeline. I use it all the time by the will of God. And the brother, again, showed always different perceptions and different facets of how that timeline can be used. Absolutely amazing, brother Paul. Paul, we thank you. That's I said, there's a handful of people, and you're one of them, brother Paul, that I always, by the grace of God, is I'm always looking forward to come back onto the show. Continue. I think this is about the 3rd time you've been on there already, brother. And there's only a few people that can say, I've been on Andrew's on the Hidden Truth 3 times, and I'm looking for you more because there's so much inside of you, brother Paul. Is there any last words you'd like to say again, brother? I mean, you've killed the game. You've absolutely killed the game.
It's just I want to give props to Peaches and even to that even to that Rudy for the works that you're doing, because you know it's just moving on to you, of course.
No.
And what happens is if you know that dynamic of getting the healing, I'm talking about the stresses and strains we've been through in our lives and coming to terms with it, and just learning from it and evolving, just evolving consciousness, being more and more aware.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I came back from Brazil, I wasn't in a good place, and people didn't even know I was back for 2 years. I think it was. I was just keeping myself, and I used to slip out. I used to. Sorry, I know this is crazy. And some people will say they don't agree with this, but I was raised around alcohol, so I just used to go and get a bottle of spirits. I go and talk to Mr. Ray and Mr. Nephew and other gentlemen, and I just sit down at night. Always at night when it was getting dark, and I just let the demons come.
Yes.
And just had to go through everything, and it was time. My mama just died. You see, I think my mama died. She was 93 years old, and then so I had all of that stuff going on from my background and everything, and then I got sideswiped by my, the relationship was called Time On, and so I had to come back to England. And I'm just having to start over. So it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful.
Wow, that's a personal journey, brother, through the dark and the light. And brother Paul, believe it or not, I'm not going to preach to you, brother. You had to go for what you had to go through, because many times it's people like you, it's your lives that will go on to inspire and literally save the lives of many of us, brother. And you've gone through it and maybe still going through aspects of it, brother, but to stand up tonight and deliver on the level that you're delivering and keeping it 1000% real in terms of yourself and your personal journey. Brother, we can only thank you, thank you, thank you. We can't get that from a YouTube video. We can't get that from just looking at your timeline, which is fantastic. It's for you to literally be able to speak to us the way you've spoken to us tonight and held nothing back, brother. And, you know, the comments are still coming through on the chat line. We honor you, brother, and we thank you on every aspect, on every level. Brothers and sisters, please, again, make some noise for Brother Paul. I don't know what to say tonight, brothers and sisters. Yes, some of you have been asking, we need to re-look at this. This show will be put back online tomorrow. Brother Paul's section will definitely be, by the will of Allah, back online tomorrow. So please, this is something you've got to study, not once, but many times. Tonight's lecture is something you do not just watch once. It's something you've got to dissect and apply it to your life. This is Brother Paul Obinna, and I hope and I pray that he does come back again, because he's one of my few, like Reverend Shock and like Brother Kabar in New York. He's one of the few people that I can say, you know what, I want to be regularly on the Hidden Truth platform, because I can close my eyes and know that my people are in good hands. Yeah, my people are in good hands. Brothers and sisters, Brother Paul Obinna, you've heard it for yourself. Okay, this is the man. And he even gave thanks to my big brother, Rudy Liquid, even though Rudy's lost in many respects in terms of the Liverpool madness that he's still going through. But you know what? We thank him for his heart and his mission. Please check out his YouTube show. And, you know, if you see Rudy, bring him back to the light. Bring him back to the Manchester light, brothers and sisters, the theatre of dreams. We got to give thanks to our sister. We got to give thanks to our Sister Peaches. Sister Peaches. Brothers and sisters, do you believe we need Peaches to do her own show on this platform? We've only touched her life. We've only touched her life, beloved brothers and sisters. Who's this? Nathaniel Boo. Nathaniel, behave yourself, man. Else I'm about to send some G's round to your yard tonight. Yeah? Hold it down, King. Okay, brothers and sisters, we honor and we thank Sister Peaches. Don't forget, we don't stop on Friday, this coming Friday, brothers and sisters. Oh, Jurita, is that why you said the 11th? You didn't tell me, sorry.
I did. I thought you realized when I said.
Sorry, Jurita has messed up because she didn't tell me properly. I've got to blame you, Jurita. It's Friday the 10th, not the 11th. Friday the 10th, brothers and sisters. We're going into the Black Panther. We're going to dissect it, blow it up online, brothers and sisters, as a way of moving into Black History Month. So Friday the 10th, Jurita, can you put the link down again, please, my queen? Mm-hmm. So hit this link tonight and get your tickets for Friday. We're going to bang it up in Ipswich, brothers and sisters. We've got our works to do, and our works will have to go worldwide. Brothers and sisters, this is the Hidden Truth Show. Next week, don't forget, we've got Dark Girl Boss